First of all, we have introduction to Max interface. Most of you are familiar maybe with it, some of you maybe not, but still in order to have a same kind of background, so I will give a short introduction to the Max MSP interface. So important is to know a couple of tools, not all of them, but a couple of them. And I think the most important are still the tools here on the top menu. Also, it is very important to know about the option lock, which locks the patcher and unlocks the patcher. It means you either edit it or play. Also, it is important to know console. So if you click console, so you can easily debug your patch. Also kind of inspector, where you have information about your objects. Also a search. So if you don't know anything about video objects, and if you want to work with video, so you would simply write video, and then you will have a list of related objects and documentation. So let's go back to console. So the tools on the top menu are basically these ones. So an object you need to write down the name of the object. So like if you work with video, so you would have something related to video. If you want to use an object for printing out information, so you would write print. So this is a print object. If you don't know exactly how it is written, so you get, while printing, you get a suggestion on the suggestion panel. So print. Next object is a message. Message is used either for debugging or your patcher, or you write down commands for the object. Also, we have a message box, which is just purely for information. Then you have a toggle object, which is turning basically your other objects either on or off. You also have different buttons, the list of different buttons, but we'll use the first one in the list, or a shortcut if you want to access it with just a key. You would press on your keyboard letter B. So I'm pressing now B, and I have an object called bank. Also, we will use often numbers, so there are basically two numbers for us to be used. One is integer and another is float. The integer would be giving us normal letters, normal numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, and the float with comma, so 0, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 5, 2. So let's use float number. So if you don't know what these objects are doing, we need to connect them to our print object. So let's connect. Now bank. If you want to use the patcher for play modus, so we would lock our patcher in here and click on bank. So here on the console we have output bank. As I mentioned, you can also use the message box to output information or debug, let's say, your patch. So if you would connect to the right inlet of the message box, and if you would lock your patch and click on toggle, so you have here bank output. Now if you want to see what our objects do, so we can also connect the toggle object to print, and also we can connect toggle object to message object. And if we lock, so here we would have either 1 here or 0. So if your object is unactivated, so it would be sending 0 or switch off kind of message to an object. The number box would be printing out, in this case, float number. We can activate it with yellow arrow here and type something on our keyboard, let's say 10, 4, and it would print 10, 4 and 0 zeros next to 4. Or we can, let's say, click on the box and drag it on towards top or bottom, and then we would have a range of numbers. See, depending on where you drag, it could be either integers printed out, not exactly integers, but with the first number changed, or we could have second or third number changed depending on where you drag. Okay, so we can disconnect now these two wires, and we can use the message box to print out different commands, let's say to the print object. Here we can write different commands instead of getting commands. Now we use our message box for sending out commands. So let's say hello world, and if we lock our patcher and click on hello world, we have here printed out hello world. Now if you have too many things printed out on your console, you can always clean it up. So now it is clean, and if you click now on hello world, it would right here hello world, printed out hello world. To finish the introduction, maybe this also important to know that these objects usually have inlets and outlets. So inlets are always on top of the object and outlets are on the bottom of the object. So if you want to send something out from one object and something in, you would connect the outlet of the object and inlet of another object, like in this case. Sometimes the objects have more inlets and more outlets, and all of the information about these inlets and outlets are written if you mouse over the inlet or outlet. So next to it you will have message result in this case, and here message trigger the message, set changes, and here message set the message without output. So without output it doesn't go out in here, but it would go out if we would combine different objects. That's it for this short introduction tutorial.